Welcome inside the Hockey Central studio. Welcome to the program. We'll start with breaking news. Chris Johnston joins us from Hockey Night in Canada. Chris, the news involves the Ottawa Senators. It involves a general manager. It involves a team president, and it may involve a rebuild. What's the very latest?
Well, it's Pierre Dorion, Jeff, getting a 3-year extension through 2021-2022. His contract wouldn't have ended until the end of next season, and it comes with a promise from Eugene Melnyk, the owner, that certainly suggests the Ottawa Senators are going to go through something resembling a rebuild. In the press release announcing this, he says that there's going to be a renewed commitment to scouting, drafting, and development. And I think it's important to note that Pierre Dorion's first jobs in hockey were as an amateur scout. He was a director of amateur scouting for the Senators before taking the GM's job. And this is something that he clearly has a lot of experience in. And for the Senators, they refused to use this kind of language. They were only one goal from the Stanley Cup final last year. But after the way this season has gone, clearly they're shifting direction.
Chris, even though the language is certainly softer than we saw from Glenn Sather and Jeff Gorton with the New York Rangers yesterday, isn't the message almost identical here? Brace yourselves, fans. We're going to rebuild this thing.
Well, there certainly are those parallels, and lower down in Eugene Melnyk's comments, he does mention the word pain, which is something we've heard the Toronto Maple Leafs say a few years ago when they got going on their rebuild. Obviously, the Rangers on Thursday using similar language. And look, they're heading into the next couple weeks here before the February 26th trade deadline, where we expect them to be active, where they have a number of players out on the block, and you know, that could be some pain once they move a few of those bodies out for future assets, because the winning on the ice may not come with it. Also,
other news from this afternoon, Tom Anselmi out as president. What can you tell us here?
Well, this certainly feels like a Friday at 6 p.m. kind of press release announcement beneath the news, because Tom Anselmi only been on the job a little bit more than a year as the president and CEO of the Senators. You know, part of his main responsibilities was overseeing the new arena project at LeBreton Flats, but also attendance and trying to find ways for the Senators to become more relevant. Well, look, they're 800 fans per game less in attendance this season. They've tarped off seats at the Canadian Tire Centre. It's been a tough year, a rocky year off the ice in a number of ways, and we don't know a whole lot about this, not even if he quit or resigned, but he is out as their president and CEO, and there'll be a focus now on who can replace him, because that's a very important job for an organization still trying to build its relevance in that market.
We're sure you guys will be all over this tomorrow. Headlines on Hockey Night in Canada, the Ottawa Senators facing off against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That one, by the way, not on CBC, but it is on Sportsnet due to the Olympics. Thanks as always, Chris.
Thank you.
Chris Johnston, there you go. Doug MacLean. So your take, this news just breaking a couple of moments ago. Pierre Dorion re-up. There's the language of a rebuild in the press release. And Tom Anselmi, now ex of the Ottawa Senators. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, for me, it's all about one player and one player only. And what impact does this have on Karlsson? And what impact does it have on a second player, Duchene? Both of them are up in a year and a half's time. Both will become unrestricted free agents in a year and a half's time. So what is going to be the decision? And does today's decision to extend Pierre and talk about drafting and talk about scouting have anything to do with a decision being made on Karlsson? Because that, to me, is what it all boils down to. Karlsson, number one, Duchene, number two, and then you want to take it a little bit deeper, you go to Stone, who's a restricted free agent this year. Those are the biggest decisions that this franchise has to make. If they make a decision to move Karlsson by this playoff or next year, what impact does that have on the future of the Ottawa Senators?
Well, I'm glad you got us there, Doug, because this very much does speak to, how does this influence the decision of Erik Karlsson? As Doug mentions, 1.5 years left on his contract. Is Erik Karlsson at his point in his career ready to go through a rebuild right now? I think most sane hockey people, Doug, would say, no, he isn't. Therefore, if you're the Ottawa Senators, Doug, would you not do better and get more of a return if you trade him now as opposed to waiting till next season, where you can offer him to a team for not one but two playoff runs?
Well, that's why I'm wondering about the timing of this announcement and giving security to your general manager to go through what will be perceived as a lot of pain if the Karlsson decision is made. Let's also not forget, thrown into the mix here, is the challenge of the number one pick that was given up for Duchene. So it is lottery protected, the number one pick, which means if they finish, if they're picking in the top 10, they get to use the pick this year. If there's a major rebuild, what if they're the 5th pick overall this year? And what if next year They're even worse than that because of the pain they're talking about. That is the challenges of all this. They're a very thin organization.
Yeah.
They became thinner today with Tom and Salmi leaving.
And to the point about the lottery-protected draft pick, that does not have to be surrendered, or that decision does not have to be made until the draft day when Ottawa goes up to select. So that will be a fascinating story to watch now